Hey, welcome back to another video. Getting a little more comfortable here in front of this lens. I was thinking about some of the things I've been through in the last few years and prior to that, and how God has worked in my life without me realizing the different things He was doing in my life until I got to this point to be able to reflect back over it, And I held close to family and friends. I was, sometimes, well, people are different. Some people like to just can't wait to get out from under the wings of their parents and family and just go out and chase the world down. Myself, I've had more of a sentimental side of me, or that hangs on to my experiences and people and relationships and stuff. And sometimes it's hard to just walk away from people because you got all these good feelings about stuff, and especially once you start experiencing death or people passing on, then that can change you a bit too. Like when my biological father had passed away, that changed me a bit, because then I was already in the process of changing, but it made me start appreciating the people around me a lot more, or paying more attention. I'm getting sidetracked here from where I was going. Trying to stay on focus where what I was thinking about. But what I've been through in the last few years from this, from what I'm talking about being sentimental, or I wasn't out there just journeying out in the world and being bold. In some ways I was, but I still was wanting to hang on to all these family and relationships, which is a good thing, and I always will, But in the last few years, God has shown me He's removed a lot of people from my life. And some people that, family members even, that I wouldn't say aren't the shiniest people. My mom told me, my mom had given me a lot of different advice, and one of my favorite pieces of advice that she gave to me, that I didn't realize how valuable it was until a little later in life, but until after she passed, that she told me that no matter who I met in life, she wanted me to, every person I ever met, she wanted me to find at least one good thing about them, at least one. And she said, even if they're just seem like really not nice people or whatever, she says, I want you to find one nice thing about them. Whether they have nice shoes, or something they do is nice, or nice hair, or maybe the way they dress, or whatever you can find that's nice. One good positive thing about each person you meet, even if they're just seem like a really not nice person. And what I found out later in life, looking back at that, is that my mom, she used to think she wasn't that smart, but she was actually pretty brilliant in a lot of ways. She was teaching me how to, and I don't know if she intended it that way, but she's teaching me how to look for the positive in every situation. How beautiful is that, So thank you, Mom. Now, I still have challenges, and it's not easy to just always be positive, and life can kind of smack you around a little bit. But in the last few years, God has removed people from my life, and I've lost things and had things taken away from me. And, when my mom passed, family really changed, man. It's like, I haven't always made the right decisions in life. I've tried to ever since I've been a kid, because of my walk with God and believing in God, and I have a fear of the Lord and doing wrong, even though I'm human, and I've partied and done lots of stuff that would be sinning, and I know that I'm not a perfect person, but I try to be the best I can be. And I would say that all my friends and most all of my family would say that as well. Now, I've got different family members, and that just when my mom died, things people really change sometimes, and it's sad that happens. But those people I've walked away from, because as much as I would try to help when I'd seen the negativity coming out of people, even with some of my, well, they're more acquaintances now than friends. When I just see this negativity coming out of them all the time, I try to change that to a positive and say, well, instead of being so upset about it like this, look at it like this, but let's turn this into a positive thing, Excuse me. But sometimes that doesn't work, and with family members, some of them you can spend 40 some years or more because their family try to get them to see the light and trying to bring the best out of them, and it just, at some point, sometimes apparently you gotta just they've got to figure it out on their own, or that, because you can't let people drag you down in life either. If you can't take care of yourself first, and that's not being selfish. You've got to be able to look at yourself in a positive light and take care of yourself to be able to keep carrying a light to be a light for others. If you're negative, and if that negativity starts swelling into you, if that's not growing or changing, well then apparently God wants you to walk away from it. For me anyway, in that experience, you got to kind of feel it as you're living it and know when it's time to walk or not for each individual, because when you're the one living it, it's different than anybody else that can try to tell you they know what you're going through. And I never try to tell people, well, you should do this or you should do that. When they come to me for advice, I try to look at multiple options and listen to what they have to say and what they're thinking. And if they're not seeing no way, or if they're like, should I do this or should I do that? I'm always like, well, that's something you got to figure out. I can't. You got to do that on your own. I can try to see more options they might not be seeing and say, well, or maybe this or maybe that or maybe this. But I try to also help people guide themselves. Now, the last few years, I've really been in a lot isolation, living in this RV by myself, and I've always been such a people person, and one of my biggest fears is being alone or dying alone. I don't have that fear isn't as strong anymore, because I'm not alone. I'll always have God with me, and He told me that. He's told me multiple times, and just more stories to share without getting sidetracked. I'll talk about them later. Anyway, so I've been in isolation more, and God has removed some of these negative energies from my life of people, family, friends, that I don't know if they were just jealous of my faith, or I don't know. I'm not trying to be accusatory at all. It's just I'm trying to figure it out. Why some people just don't see it, or they gotta do not nice things to try to bring you down. Like they say, misery loves company. And it wasn't easy for me to do, especially with my mom passing, and I was really close with my mom. And the more you watch these videos, the more you'll probably learn more about me and my history. If it's interesting to you at all. But God has removed people from my life, and it's been a really hard, different transition. But I'm liking where I'm going, because I've seen family members that have their own thing going on, whatever it may be. And I've had family members try to take whatever it is that's going on in their world, or I've tried to help them, but they're either bottling it off, don't want to deal with it, whatever, and all I can do is try to be the best I can be in their world. But once their world starts trying to alter mine or change mine or control it or bring me down to, to the misery loves company kind of thing. Apparently God finally said it's time for you to go, and it hasn't been easy, because I've always had family and friends around me all the time. I'm a people person, and so this alone time, I've had alone times at different stages in my life where I was alone a lot too, and I didn't like it then, but this time I'm starting to be a little more accepting of it or understand it more. And some of the things I've learned is that the negativity of people in my life, I wish them well, and I wish they'd be better or see things differently. And I think some of them will, some of them I don't know. But what I've got to realize is, even though I went through all these challenges and I've stepped away from the negative people and keep them at a distance, because I can feel all my life I've known I was destined for positive things or that, and to the best of my ability, and what's been kind of neat is what I'm starting to see is that, I'm starting to look at it like God removed these people from my life, whether it was me walking away from them or not, it was God guiding my steps. But what's also a blessing is seeing the people that may have had their own challenges with that, but want me to still always be in their lives. And that's another blessing too, because it's showed, I don't know, it's just showing how I've seen how some people value me in their life, and I value myself very highly, and not to be conceited or anything like that, but I like who I am. My mom did a wonderful job raising me, and I've had wonderful influences in my life. My stepfather was an amazingly wonderful man. In the beginning, I wasn't letting him into my world because he wasn't my biological father, so there was some dispute there in the beginning, but that's normal as a young kid growing up, I think. But man, what a great man he was. My biological father was awesome too, even though he had his negative things or whatever. My stepmother was a wonderful lady. My mom and my stepmother got along wonderfully. Both my dad and my stepdad, not that they got along wonderfully, but they tolerated each other and made things pretty good to where they weren't, it wasn't one of those fighting situations where the kids are caught in the middle, and everything else being ugly, so I was blessed that way, very blessed, because I know a lot of people in life don't have that. And I'm very blessed just with my whole life, even though I'm going through some tough challenges now, but I know it's going to get better, and I know it with my faith in my walk with Christ, because that's why I'm making these videos, to be an inspiration for people that are maybe somewhere on their path, not, wondering how long it's going to take or is it going to get better and all that good stuff, It's really different for me to put myself out there. I even started, like, when I'm feeling guided by God, like God has guided me, just literally I could feel him guide me to people. Like, I don't know who I was going to meet or whatever, but I could tell, he said, no, you're going to go this way or you're going to that place or whatever, because I got somebody you're going to meet, and not that he said it in those words, but I could feel it, so, and I've had amazing experiences that way. Well, the more I'm listening for it or feeling it or learning to hear it or be guided, the more I've been posting it. I only use Facebook mainly for my family and friends that are close to me and stuff like that, so they can keep, especially since I've been living this life in my RV and away from family and not as close to them as I used to. That way they can all kind of keep tabs on what I'm doing in life and know that I'm alive and doing well or whatever, and I still communicate with them. But anyway, that's mainly what I put it there for. But what I've been doing lately is when I'm like trying to put stuff out there ahead of time, and I did it a couple months back. I was going to wait to go somewhere for a few days because it worked out financially for me better with fuel cost and stuff like that, trying to say, well, if I wait till, instead of going on Monday, if I wait till Wednesday, I got this and this to do, so that way I can do it all along the run and I'm using my fuel more efficiently. Well, God told me, no, you're going to go today, which was on a was it on a Monday? I don't know. But because I could feel he wanted me to meet somebody, so I put myself out there on Facebook and I posted how the Lord was sending me to meet somebody again, and I don't know who it was, but He always guides me to them. Well, I put that out there ahead of time because now if I had done it after the fact, after I meet this person, and then say, well, God sent me there, some people might be like, okay, whatever, doubt it. So at the risk of sounding kind of goofy, or people thinking I'm whatever, I don't know how people think stuff, but to show an example, I just put it out there ahead of time before it happened. Well, I got out there and I ended up meeting a wonderful lady that I know God sent me to meet, and it turns out she had died multiple times and been brought back to life. So it was just an amazing conversation. We talked for a few hours, and she talked to me about angels and her experiences, and it was really neat. And there were the different times. It wasn't like on the operating table multiple times in that same setting. It was, I think she said 4 different times. It was 4 different times that she had died and been brought back to life. But anyway, my point there was that I put myself out there that God was sending me to meet somebody, and I don't know who I don't know who it is, but He always guides me to them. So here's to another amazing experience, And then because I was traveling a little bit of a distance, it was the next day or that when I got there to meet her, but it was a few days before I was originally going to head there. So stuff like that's been happening. I've been trying to put myself out there more, and that's what I'm doing with this channel. Put myself out there while I'm in a tough situation, surviving life. Like I said, I'm not hungry or nothing. I got food in the camper, but I've got I don't know if I got $20-$30 left in my wallet at the moment. The Lord keeps providing, and I think in my second video I had a pretty good story about that too. But about my debate with God, about getting nervous about things and Him saying He's going to provide and not to worry, and Him showing me. But anyway, I've been trying not to let these videos linger on too long. Be considerate if making comments. Be considerate of everybody else and help each other out in the comments. I hope you like and subscribe and share all that stuff to help this channel grow. If you kind of like what you've been listening to, and hopefully I'm starting to come across camera a little bit better, a little more comfortable. And God bless you. God's always there for you. Run to God.